Good afternoon, everyone. I will call this committee of the whole meeting for the Village of Fundy Albert Council for June 18th, 2024 to order. The first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. So the agenda for this committee of the whole meeting was circulated in advance. I will propose the addition of item number 4G, a report for bylaw enforcement. And while the agenda includes public statements and inquiries as item number 7, the addition requires unanimous consent by council. It is not a standard agenda item per our procedural bylaw. All members of council agree to the additions to proposed to the agenda. Hearing no objections, we'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. So moved by Councillor Russell, seconded by Councillor Coates. Any discussion on the motion? Not, all in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Deputy Mayor Harrell with us?
Yeah. You're on mute, Councillor Harrell.
Yeah, I'm. It's scheduled.
For the purposes of the minutes, please note that Councillor or Deputy Mayor Arrow is participating virtually. Item number 3, are there any conflicts of interest to declare in relation to today's agenda? There being none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is public and administrative presentations. We have a number of presentations this afternoon. Presentations by members of the public are limited to 5 minutes in length, whereas presentations by service providers to the municipality and administration are not so restricted. The first presentation is Mr. Benjamin Prout on the topic of the Fundy Albert Strategic Plan. Mr. Prout, thank you for joining us virtually this afternoon. So the floor is yours. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you making the time for me, and I'm excited to go through this with you. Anytime that we're able to bring forward a new strategic plan and kind of walk through it, maybe I'm a nerd with this kind of stuff, but I actually really enjoy it. I find that it can be very fun, and it's an exciting process for the organization. If it works, I'm just going to open up. There we go. Is everybody able to see this?
Quite small, but we can see it.
That's not right, but yes, we can see it.
Okay, sounds good. There is a copy on your end that you can walk through as well. But this is, for all intents and purposes, your strategic plan, obviously stemming from the process where Erica and Lindsay came out and facilitated the sessions with you. I wish I could have been there myself, but unfortunately it didn't work out timing wise. But it was a pleasure to work through this with them. So this is the 24 to 29 strategic plan. As always, we begin with a letter from the mayor, and then a little bit of a profile of the community, and then we get into the guts and glory of it all. So these are the pieces that I'll step into a little bit more and walk us through. First, starting with the engagement component of the process that was undertaken, I will say the level of engagement seen for Fundy Albert was incredibly encouraging. There are a lot of times where we go through processes of this nature where the excitement isn't there in the community, the participation isn't necessarily there as much. We had a lot of pre-registration on these sessions and some really valuable input from residents who came out and provided feedback in advance of the strat planning sessions. This is, what we would call textbook. It was done well. The feedback that we received was actually valuable, which was really, really nice. And it was one of those situations that now we use almost as a case study to say, look what happens when it's done well, because the community was so heavily involved. And that obviously played into the facilitated strat planning portion of it. And then, of course, after this, it will go back to the community so that they can see it again on the tail end of everything, and to see how their perspectives were incorporated into this new strat plan for Fundy Albert. We obviously took the initiative in developing the new mission and vision as well, with the mission being stated as to foster sustainable economic growth, enhance community well-being, and preserve the natural beauty of Fundy Albert by delivering efficient services, promoting tourism, building strategic partnerships, and investing in infrastructure and communication. We are committed to creating a vibrant, safe, and inclusive community for all residents and visitors. So hopefully this resonates with all of you. This really was drawn from a combination of what we heard people are excited about for within the community, as well as what came out of those strat planning sessions, similar to what we have developed for the vision, which is stated as to be a dynamic and thriving municipality known for its rich natural landscapes, strong community values, and a robust local economy. Fundy Albert will be a place where residents take pride in their community, visitors are welcome, and strategic partnerships drive innovation and development, ensuring a high quality of life for current and future generations. I quite like that one. As we moved into the actual strategy part of it all, as you know, once we come up with a series of multiple goals, we tend to develop trends out of those goals and file them under strategic priorities or strategic pillars. We came up with the following for the purposes of this plan, those being infrastructure, village services, communications, strategic partnerships, and economic development and tourism. And then on the following pages, we're able to break those down a little bit more into a series of goals and associated deliverables. This is the tactical piece that ties us to where this plan becomes measurable. And this is where things in my mind get really exciting, because I mean, there are strategic plans out there that, they're feel-good documents and we state we want to be all these things, but there's nothing actionable to it. What you have done is create a living document that really ties action to the goals that you've set, to say, hey, here's where we want to be, and here's some of how we're going to get there. As your goals are completed and you move forward with this strategic plan, it'll be nice to be able to cross things off this list and to receive updates on them in a way that ties back to your initial intention in developing these goals. So this is a really important component in developing strat plans of this nature, to ensure that it's not just a pretty document that sits on a shelf and is reflected on a poster on a wall. This is actually something that can be used by council, by administration to move the organization and the community forward. So under economic development and tourism, the goals stated are developing a local economic development and tourism strategy, investigating the implementation of an accommodation levy, lobbying the government for infrastructure investment, and developing a marketing program for municipal tourism. Under village services, we are looking at reviewing the organizational structure, investing in the safety of Fundy Albert, promoting pride of property, balancing service delivery with fiscal responsibility, building a centralized municipal office, providing value to all residents, and developing a recreation master plan. And again, we can go deeper into looking at all of the associated deliverables here, but I don't want to bite too much time here. I'm happy to go through them if you'd like. Under strategic partnerships, we have the goals of building strategic relationships, lobbying the government on key issues, utilizing strategic partnerships for affordable housing, sharing resources with neighbors, negotiating a reciprocal agreement with the Anglophone East School District, and investigating and supporting public transportation programs. And under infrastructure, we're looking at developing and implementing an asset management plan and a roads master plan, developing a 5-year capital plan, defining inventory of municipal trails and maintenance plan, lobbying for improved communication systems, and upgrading water and sewer systems. And then finally, on communications, we're looking at creating an inclusive public engagement and communications plan, developing a Village of Fundy Albert brand, engaging on the strategic plan, and creating opportunities to bring Fundy Albert together. That kind of brings us to the end. We don't make these plans more convoluted than they need to be. We don't want to give you a 35-page document that is more page count than it is substance. And so we kind of narrowed it down to saying, look, these are the goals that were developed and the associated deliverables with those. And I think it creates a really clean document that your community can quickly go through and understand well, and that you can go back to as council, and that administration can reference on an ongoing basis. So I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pu. Any questions, comments from council?
I just have one comment. Is the strategic plan, if I remember, like, it's a living document, right? We're always going to be taking things off or moving it around or replacing. Is that correct?
That's the intention of these plans, and I may defer to your CAO to answer a little bit more in depth. But the intention is, on an annual basis, you would sit back down as a council and admin team and kind of walk through it again, to say, here's what we've accomplished, and depending on changing circumstances, new internal and external pressures, you may have to adjust to what's happening in the moment. The best example of that was the COVID-19 pandemic, when councils would go back and say, what's still realistic to go at right now in terms of our goals, and what do we need to push down the line, and what do we need to incorporate based on current circumstance. If you ever have to deal with a major crisis, that would be a similar effect, but it could be something as on the opposite end that's more of a positive nature. Hey, we have a big investment opportunity. Do we need to shift our priorities to be able to focus more on these opportunities in front of us right now? Those sorts of pieces. So yeah, you would open it on an annual basis and kind of see where things lie right now in comparison to where the plan stands.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? I do have one, because you've laid out the objectives. But are there any key performance indicators that would go along with each one of those objectives? In other words, is it now up to our staff to develop those key performance indicators, and what we would use to measure success towards the achievement of the strategic plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've given those tools through tactical planning to be able to move forward with tracking progress on each deliverable, which can then be brought back. I can't remember the frequency that it's going to be brought back. I believe we discussed that, but it'll be brought back to you as a council to say, here's the progress that's been made, and not just say it in broad strokes, but actually be able to point to, where that progress has been made in alignment with the tactics and goals.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Because there's an important link between the strategic plan, and as we progress, reporting in our annual report what we have achieved towards the strategic plan, which we are mandated by the province of New Brunswick to create an annual report every year. And right now we're waiting for our financial statements for the 2023 year, and that will kick off the ability to create our first ever annual report. So thank you very much, Mr. Pu. Thank you for you and your team's dedication to the development of our first ever strategic plan, and we look very much forward to the further development of it, but also communicate it to our constituents, who played an important role in its development, and ultimately they want to see what it is that we came up with after they were consulted in depth. So thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Pu, if you're more than welcome. Oh,
I told them already that.
all right. So thank you very much. The next presentation is for 5 minutes by Ms. Stephanie Rinolio. Rinolio and Carla Richard on the topic of funding blades. If you like, you can come forward and have a seat at the table,
Sure.
and you will have 5 minutes.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's my first time. It's exciting. So good afternoon, Council and Mayor Rochelle. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss a few topics with you today. As you know, my name is Stephanie, and I've been volunteering my time with Fundy Blades for over 2 years now. Sorry, I just need a sec. Fundy Blades Skating Club has been operating since 1977 and has helped thousands of kids in our community learn to skate, whether that be figure skating or hockey, and develop their hockey skills through power skating. People from all over, we're talking Alma to Dieppe, have come in and used our skating club. But our last season showed the lowest registrants since COVID, the lowest, as well as our lowest fundraising funds to cover all of our operation costs. We require an upwards of $30,000 a year to be able to operate. That is a lot. And we are committed to continue this for our community, but we need your help. So this is why I'm here today, to ask for your support and your collaboration on a few topics. I'm not sure if you're great note takers, or if someone has a pen, but there are going to be a few takeaways. So I'm happy to share my Coles notes afterwards if you need them. So the first topic I want to talk to you today about, or ask a few questions around, is our pilot program, and the one that we had last season, as well as our upcoming season. So our 2023-2024 season was the first year that we were allowed or proposed a pilot program where we extended our season into spring. We saw a total of 20-ish skaters that ranged from learn to skate to power skating. 20 very important skaters that brought in a small amount of funds that we really needed in that moment. We felt it was a success. The men's league extended. I'm sure the guys enjoyed that and the extra beers that they had. And we had teams ranging from Moncton to Riverview to Dieppe utilize that extra open ice time. We even had spring hockey come in with Charlie Bourgeois. Yeah. However, we have not received any feedback, and we're not quite sure yet from a financial perspective what that meant for the village and where we can look at what the village made from monetary perspective without opening that season, and how much it costs us to see that we can really push this pilot program forward. So I'm asking if there's a way, maybe there isn't, to share some sort of financial with us, whether that be what was brought in to the village with the open ice time from the ice time cost from the outside, as well as funding. That way we can make a educated decision and decide whether or not we want to propose another spring session. So our spring session ranged from April to May.
Yeah, end of March. And we filled it. All the time slots were full. There was no empty time slots, to my knowledge, because we had asked.
So that's my first takeaway. Financials.
Continue on with your
Yeah.
presentation, and then if there are any
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely. This brings me to my next request. We are looking to start our season this year, middle of September. Previously, we had started end of September and October, and we're really looking for the village to give us the okay on the start date. And the reason why we're asking for this is because we are required and need to advertise when our start date is going to be. So we really need a firm confirmation, and I'd really love it, if possible, by the end of next week, so that we can start our process and start reaching out to the families and the kids that are in the area to let them know that we will actually have a season this year.
And the only reason we ask that is because parents need time to get funding in place, pro kids, kids sport, things like that, because that all takes time. It's an application form. It's a process to do, and we want to be able to let parents know that it's affordable. Like, we try and keep it cost low, so it's affordable. Like, because not only one person just has one child. Like, having one child is ideal, but having more than, like, it's not feasible.
Great. Okay, on to my next topic. As you may know, Fundy Blades is a nonprofit organization, but also a community partner. We'd like to understand where the funds are being allocated for the advertisement within our community arena. There's these big boards that are on the wall where people are paying for advertisement, and based on our understanding, that funds are coming in, but we're not sure where that's going. So we'd really like to understand, is it going to the Hockey Association? Is it going directly to the village? So we just want to understand where that advertisement funds are going. Additionally, another point, number 6 at this point, we are requesting support in investigating board advertisements. What would be required from the arena's perspective? Is there inspection? Do we meet the requirements? Is there somebody that we could look at? Because we really think that there's an opportunity to have some sort of board advertisement along the arena. We are really looking at every single avenue to provide funding to the village, as well as to cover our costs. And I must be honest, very transparent, we may not exist in 2 years. Sorry.
So I hate to say this, but you are going well above.
Okay.
So if you would like to know, if you would like to kind of wrap things up a little bit and or provide, as you mentioned, provide your notes to our CAO and she
Yeah.
can share that with members.
Absolutely. Apologize. Obviously, it's a very important topic.
I know.
In this moment, we need support from the council, especially in terms of funding and advocacy. So if there's somebody who would like to partner with us in regards to looking for sport sponsorship, corporate sponsorships, grants, and looking at supporting our advertisement request, that would be wonderful. And I'm asking you to champion our cause. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we'll provide council members an opportunity to ask any questions if they have any of you. And Councillor Jonah, any questions?
How much does it cost for a child to participate?
Yeah, it's a great question. It ranges anywhere from about $300 to $400 or $500, depending on how long they enroll for.
So it's like a half season.
Yeah, like there's different aspects. So you could do a half season, you could do, if we did just spring session, it's obviously a little bit cheaper because it was only a couple weeks. So our costs are based on how long the child's enrolled in.
Thank you. Councillor Elderton, any questions?
And no, thank you very much for your presentation. I think you were very clear on what your thoughts are. I'm not sure I'm just speaking on behalf of myself, but not of all council, but those are some big expectations for next week. But I do know we have had discussions about the arena. We all know the importance of the arena and we also have to maintain it. So I'm sure it will come up in discussions again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Russell.
No, thank you for your presentation. I think you've asked some very important questions that I think maybe some of us would like to know as well. So I look forward to maybe hearing some of those, that information and receiving it. I agree with Councillor Elderton. Understand September is important. But if we continue to have the weather that we're having right now, I'm not sure. Director of Operations is here. I'm not sure how that would actually work in September, but I'm sure we'll have some roundtable discussions and be back to you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Coates.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Funding Glades is a great organization. Been around for a lot of years. And I hope you have success. Okay.
Councillor Land.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I appreciate your concerns and, yeah, you had some good points of information that we need to all understand what took place in the extra time the season was open. And, yeah, hopefully everything works out and the Fundy Blades continues.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor. Any
No, I have
questions?
nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you. So from my perspective, there's a lot of information there, a lot of questions. I guess we can do our best to get the answers for you. I do recall that at a prior meeting, there was some conversation by our Director of Operations, and I'll ask him for his feedback here in a second. But I believe there was some question about the strain of that additional time, both early in the season and late in the season, puts on the ice plant. The ice plant is not new. It's quite old, as I understand it. And the trouble with that is that if it fails because we're putting too much strain on it, then nobody gets in arena. Nobody gets in the ice time. So we have to rely, I believe, on the advice that we get from our Director of Operations in terms of what that additional strain puts on the system and then make those decisions accordingly. I don't know how much a new ice plant would cost, but my guess is it would be in the triple digits
Yeah.
and maybe even more than that. So, Mr. Reed, do you have maybe any comments to add to that or?
I can't say, give any exact numbers on what it's gonna be. I mean, we talked to our outfit that looks after our ice plant. They could give us some more of an idea on wear and tear, temperatures and all that stuff. I mean, anytime the weather is warmer, it definitely, through the regular season, we've got 2 compressors, one will run, in the spring and the fall, they both run. So it's double everything. But, the exact wear and tear, what kind of state those machines are in, I think we'd be better off to ask our maintenance fellow that we bring in from Black and Mac to get the exact, what his idea would be, I think would be better taken than anyone around this table.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. I'll ask our CEO if she has anything to add.
So the arena is something that we are looking into. It was on our books for the summer. I think your ask for next week is not something that we'd be able to come up with any answers that would give you the confidence that you can go forward to make parents and decisions for things for September. So a week just isn't enough, unfortunately, for us to do that type of investigation and get back to. And I have to kind of mimic what our director of operations is saying, and the arena is not insulated as well. So it's keeping the temperature what it needs to be at in those shoulder seasons is very, very difficult.
Would you have a time frame? Right, that we could go by?
Well, we don't have any council meetings scheduled for the month of July. That's the problem.
Okay.
And so we would obviously need some advice from a number of folks, not the least of which is Black and McDonald, I believe is the name of the company that helps us with the ice plant, as well as the treasurer, as well as the arena manager. The arena manager has a significant role to play because we need to assess how successful the extension was of the previous season and how successful it would be to operate it 1 month earlier in the fall, in addition to the extra month during the spring. Suffice it to say that if you need a position coming out of this meeting, would be that it would be likely no different than what happened last year. That's the unfortunate reality. But some of the questions that you've asked, we can probably get some answers to, and those are some of the questions that we're asking ourselves. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate your passion with which you speak about your program. My daughter was in a can skate program. She was a figure skater as well. And it's something that is very much needed in the community. It's activities for our youth is something that we take very seriously, and opportunities for sports. And, but we'll try to get a response to you back as quickly as we possibly can.
Sure.
The unfortunate thing is maybe we should have had this conversation, but that's not your fault. That's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, we're looking to partner. So whatever that means and what that looks like, that's what we're really trying to do here.
So on behalf of council, thank you very much for your presentation this afternoon, and we'll see what we can do to get your responses quickly. So thank you. Item number 4C was a quarterly report by the Riverview Fire Department in relation to services that were provided in Ward 6 and part of Ward 5. And that was provided as an information item to council, unless someone wants to, has something that they want to add to that or maybe a question. That report was provided by, I believe, Chief True.
Yeah.
Of the Riverview Fire Department. Item number 4D is a combined, I think I've got this correct because I looked through the documents and I wasn't entirely sure, so correct me if I'm wrong. The combined sewer overflow and sanitary sewer overflow long-term control plan for the community of Fundy Alberta was prepared by Englobe Engineering. That's been provided to council members ahead of this meeting. Everyone had an opportunity to look at it. I don't know if there are any questions relating to the report that was provided ahead of time.
That's just an information piece as well. It was a project that was initiated last year. They've completed all the work that was required as a result of that project, so that's them coming back. However, it will help to populate some decisions in the fall
when it comes time for budgeting for next year.
Correct. And that was, for me personally, that was a bit of my takeaway when I read it, was that kind of highlighted the need to look at the long-term investments in the wastewater system in the community of Alma. Not only is it required for the community of Alma, it's required for the community of Hillsborough and also Riverside Alma. Deputy Mayor Arrow, did you have any comments or questions?
No, I agree with you, Mayor, and also Ms. Saborn on that. The one thing that struck me as interesting and maybe a bit odd in this report was in the top of page 25, which is, it's in the area where it's speaking to the lagoon, and in particular, the condition of the lagoon. Page 25 says that under system condition, it says, considering the sewer piping age and the assumption that the lagoon was built around the same time as the pipe network, the lagoon is estimated to be in good condition. So I note the operative word estimated and also the adjective good, which is a bit contradictory to some of the other information that we've received. So I think it would be incumbent on us to go back to Englobe and just ask them for clarification of, is the lagoon now actually considered to be in good condition? And is the troubles that we've been dealing with over the last at least year and a half, but longer than that, are those behind us in large measure now or not? And if not, how does that actually fit into this so we no longer have to rely on their adjective estimated or their operative word estimated?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Arrow.
I don't really have a full answer on that one. I mean, I came into this project halfway, but from what I understand, there was a list of conditions that needed to be met as far as the lagoon was concerned. And those, barring a couple, I think, still, those have all been met. And I think when they're saying on page 25, estimated in good condition, are they referring to the underground infrastructure that they can't visibly see? So they're assuming because it's the same time as the water system distribution, that we have the same condition because of its age. But I'd have to double check on the report, but I can certainly get back to you. I'm thinking it's the infrastructure they can't see that they're estimating to be in good condition, because it's all underground and short of digging it up, they wouldn't have any other way of assessing.
Right, but so as you both have mentioned, that it's certainly the recommendations for future action do have price tags associated with it, and we're going to need to be mindful of that at budgeting time.
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Arrow. I kind of had the same question, but I understand that there's been some work and investment in the lagoon in the community of Alma for some time, so maybe things have improved to the point where things are better now, but it's worth asking the question. So, thank you. Item number 4E, which is the paused quarterly report that was provided to the member of council in advance of the meeting. So my takeaway from that is from the months of January to May, there appears to be, they refer to patrol, that there would have been one patrol in the communities each month. So I guess I have a question as it relates to, is that consistent with the contract that we've signed with Fox?
Yes, so they deal with animal control services are on an as-need basis. So if people call in with an issue, it's on an as-need basis. But if no complaints are received, the control will include a monthly patrol in the villages of Hillsborough and quarterly patrols in Riverside, Alberta, and Alma to ensure visible presence in the community. So that was the contract that was in place until the end of December, that contract.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on the pause contract? Yes.
I think I mentioned one of the last meetings, there is a report I sent from SPCA. I'm retrying. I haven't received a response yet. I'm trying to figure out who the right person is, but I hope to have something at our next meeting.
Thank you. Item number 4F. The next agenda item is the administrative report, which was provided to council. Perhaps CEO would like to go through and provide some highlights there.
Yes, so of course I'm sharing my screen, so I can't put the report up on my plan, but that's okay. The first part of it is the community grant, so that's just an update, I think. That's just an update on where we stand with the grants, with the latest one that we have just approved at the last meeting. As far as the tenders and RFPs, we are yet to actually appoint or confirm a tender. We have a couple sitting there waiting to go. We're just trying to get a few of the financials in line, and some of those we should be able to start awarding those tenders very soon. The RFP for the Steve Street land that we were going to be posting for sale has gone up last Friday, and it was to stay up for 10 days. So we shall keep an eye on that and see how many people are expressing interest in that. As far as the building permits, I've noticed when I was doing the reports that it's dropped off. It's not as busy as it seems to have been last year. I think there could be a lot of reasons for that. Things are more expensive. People are waiting for interest rates to go down, what have you. But maybe we'll see a difference. That's just a tracking piece that we keep track of, and how much money was awarded in permits in each of the wards. The next section, I believe, is finance. So I will then leave that one to Jillian.
All right, so for the start off audit, I just before coming to this meeting, I spoke with the accountant, and he's been able to answer some of our questions we've had regarding the finished Hillsborough audit, and I'll be sharing those with council shortly. And also, me and my team are currently working through final reviews and trying to get things ready for the 2023 audit, so we can get through it a lot quicker. For our income statements, there's nothing really that shot out, that showed a red flag for where we're at. Everything seems to be going well. Once me and my other directors look through our summer projects, we'll be able to provide more better forecasting once we know what's planned for the upcoming summer and fall. For our aging receivables, we've sent out quite a few disconnection and disconnection warning notices, as well as overdue. And we've been seeing quite a few payments just since we have sent them out. And we are currently working with our general operating, and I've had my assistant look in different collection agencies if needed. That's it for my section.
I'll just kind of stop there because finances are always a point of interest. And do any members of council have any questions for our treasurer as it relates to the financial report, or the portion of the financial report that makes up the administration report?
I have.
Yes, Councillor Elderton?
The water and sewer, under where it, one of the expense lines was fiscal services expense. What exactly is that again?
That'd be like all of debentures, bank fees. Yeah, it's like a lot of them, we don't have like the final principal payment. It's usually about November, December.
Thank you. And the expenses in Riverside, Albert, for the water and sewer seem to be down a little bit. Is that just timing, or is that?
It's a little bit of a timing. It's like some of it too is we put money aside just in case of water emergencies. And we were still waiting. I don't know what's gone on with it as it's Scott's department, but there was still a reservoir maintenance plan that we had put money aside for that we hadn't received yet from the XP. I believe Scott was going to reach out to a different engineer.
Okay, that was my other question. The other comment I have is about the accounts receivable. That I totally agree. It's time to look at that. That's a large amount of cash that's not sitting in our bank account. So I look forward to see what the process is that you and your team come up with in the future.
Yeah, unfortunately with water, when they owe money, it's automatically on their property.
Right.
So in the past, when I conversed with our lawyer in previous Riverside Albert, he advised against collection agency. But when we have things like the arena, different rentals that are sitting in our general operating, not getting paid, I want to be able to have that option to send up collections.
No, I appreciate that. And like I said, I think it's something definitely that needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for our treasurer?
Yeah, Deputy
Deputy
Mayor.
Mayor Earl?
Yeah. Ms. Hutchinson, on the water and sewer, I know you're saying that we should be at, like, these reports are a target of 42% in terms of that's how much we've used on the year, we've consumed of the year. On the expense side, I'm looking at the 3 different systems, and the water disposal is roughly 40% for all 3 systems. So we're nice and consistent and call it on target. So we could assume or probably correctly assume that by year end, we're going to be close. And that's what you're indicating just verbally here. But on the water supply side, there's tremendous variability on the expense side with Alma at 55%, Hillsborough at 14%, and Riverside, Alberta at 32%. So I'm not sure why we are seeing such discrepancy there, but in terms of your projection out to the end of the year, because for instance, in Alma, the budget already included a lot of anticipated expenses that we had with the temporary water system and such. So these things shouldn't have come as a surprise to us. So are you expecting that at the end of the year, we're going to be in a good position, basically meeting and not exceeding our budgeted amounts, or what?
Well, out of the 3, Alma I do tend to watch a little bit more, but it's a lot to do with, we have like a lot of one-time costs with the temporary water, and it's a little bit harder to like guesstimate and forecast, if something was to come up. And just where we cut it so short, trying to keep the rate low. But I do keep a keen eye on it. And some of those costs too will be put through grants. So the section where I've got below it, where I have funded projects and I've taken an amount away, I've been keeping track and will be giving more detail on our projects going forward, to show what amounts really are essentially an in and out.
And so for Hillsborough, why would the water supply be up till now, where we're at the end of April, according to this report, it was only 14% has been consumed of the expenses, the budgeted expenses? Why so low?
Because we had budgeted to start water exploration, and where we haven't had the manpower to really work towards that project, not a lot has been gotten done.
Okay, so it's sort of back-ended towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's likely the result of an excess of revenue, Deputy Mayor Land, excess of revenue collected during the year and no expenses toward water exploration phase 1.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? I just have maybe a couple of questions. One is, I like the fact that we're able to show the aging of receivables. I find that, the total for between the 3 utilities and general operating at almost $500,000 is excessive. I agree with Councillor Elderton that we need to do something about that. What I note though is that when we look at current 31 to 60 days, 61 to 90 days, which 61 to 90 is essentially 1 quarter. So it's probably not uncommon for somebody to be 1 quarter behind. But what I would like to know is out of the 91 plus days, that 319,415, what portion of that represents being many quarters unpaid versus, so if there's a way that Sage can provide you some additional information and more granular in terms of, are there people that are 9 months behind on their utility payments, then those are the ones that we should focus on. And in fact, that may sound a little bit crass, but those are the folks that we should be targeting on the shut-off invoices. And I mean, I have seen over the years, some folks who have gone for years with unpaid water and wastewater invoices, that should never be allowed to happen.
Yeah,
And we need to be more proactive to manage that and keep those numbers a lot lower, because we rely on those numbers. We rely on that money to run our utilities. Yes,
Jillian might have something to say, but, two things. One is we have just sent out a bunch of notices, so, we should see some turnaround on those. Billing right now till the end of the month, there's still a lot that could be paid in the next couple of weeks and not be outstanding. And then the shut off of the water. So some of the outstanding ones are ones that the water goes by their house, but they're not hooked up to it.
okay.
So it's you can't shut the water off because they're using their well water anyway. So sometimes those are ones that are very long outstanding and it's difficult then to do anything about it.
yeah, like they may
That's
make up
understandable.
about 50,000.
So we're
Yeah.
still 50,470.
Yeah.
It's still significant in the grand scheme
Yeah.
of things. But I believe as a municipality, now that we have 3 utilities, we should be doing a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more granular information to kind of show how bad the situation is with folks who are beyond 1 quarter behind.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that information.
Excuse me, Mayor,
Yes.
that's one more question.
Yes, Councilor Rowland.
On the aging receivable report, it looks like there's some negatives in there. I meant to ask that earlier. Is that just a typo or is that somebody that's paid for the year within?
Usually people that pay for the year.
Okay, because
Yeah.
there's one under the total for minus 65,173 for Riverside Albert, but that's the total of the receivable for the whole year.
Yeah, sometimes if we don't,
I see the minuses, I think, are supposed to be over with the current and the 3160.
Oh.
Okay, Thank
no,
you.
just the way it, if we don't apply the credits right away,
Right.
then they'll show up in our.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Not, Ms. Sabrin, if you would like to continue.
Kim is the next section after.
Yeah, so the $1,250 Trans-Canada Trail grant, Josie Steves designed the maps and the wetland park introduction. They're nice aluminum signs. And the signs have been purchased as well as 12 by 12 trailhead markers for Braybrook and for Wetland Park. So I just have to get the posts and then we're gonna have a volunteer event and barbecue and anyway, stay tuned for more information. I haven't heard anything from the Department of Local Government. Well, I did send them an email, however, they're still reviewing the application. I haven't heard anything from the COING grant for the multi-sport youth program. The NB Powers request for expression of interest for the DC fast charge sites. I applied for Riverside, Albert, Hillsborough, and Alma. I did receive a call yesterday that unless they find more funding, but Hillsborough and Riverside, Albert will definitely not be getting one as of right now. However, Alma, they're hoping this year, if not next year. So I said, definitely. And he said, well, it looks good, but anyway. So that's my little update on the Alma DC fast charger. The municipality offered 2 $500 bursaries this year, one for Caledonia Regional High School graduate and one for Riverview High School graduate. And for Caledonia, the recipient was Savannah Harris Blanchard, and the Riverview High School Scholarship Committee chose Ryan Engelhardt. A little update about the RDC applied for 2 laptops and 2 printers for the visitor information centers in partnership with the Albert County Tourism Association. The funding was successful and the laptops and printers have been picked up and ready to go to those municipal visitor information centers this year. Working with the Hope Wellness Eco Resort to see if we can get some funding in order to do the Village Vibes event for the month of July and August. And there was another section that was mine. The website. The website was to go live on the 15th or 16th of June, and we just discovered who hosts, who the URL is on, I guess. So we just shared that with Derek today. So the website will be going live, I'd say, the next 24 hours. And then we'll just build. I took a little peek at it today. It looks great. There's still some information that has to be built into it, but for the most part, it's coming along quite lovely. Anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Spears? Yes, maybe I'll start. I'm just curious, are there any activities planned for any of the other trails within Fundy Albert other than the Wetland Park Trail?
So Wetland Park, Raybrook, Friends of Fun Day, so we applied for that pot of money, that $1,000 that was available for the Trans Canada Trails. Friends of Fun Day applied for Riverside Albert, and they had their Trails Day, June 1st. And then we have just here, that's the only Trans Canada Trail network, so we have our own.
One question, Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Lyon.
Is there any update on the trails out on the Hillsborough
We're still waiting to hear back from Infrastructure Canada.
to see? Okay, thank you.
You, anyone else? Councilor Jonah?
In regards to funding, maybe looking for provide, how does that look at this point?
I've spoken to the RDC and there will be a little pot of money available. However, I just haven't received confirmation on what that would look like yet.
Deputy Mayor Earl, any questions?
Yeah, well, I guess it was just the one about the Village Vibes, because that one came before council recently, or was about to, and we didn't really move on it. I'm curious to know, is this an RDC has a pot of money that they're offering to either or municipalities and not-for-profits for community entertainment type events? Is that what this is?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, good luck.
Nothing else?
No.
Ms. Severin, back to you.
I believe it is Director of Operations next.
So we're ongoing with keeping up with mowing grass. We've we've completed, I think, most of our cleaning up and the flower beds and preparing them. We do have one big task ahead of us as far as the lower corner Riverside Albert corner store where it got ran into. We've got to rebuild that flower bed. We've been working on the pool, getting it prepared to open up. Cleaning up a lot of our trails and cutting them back and opening them up. Looking on to many quotes for the various jobs that are on the go. Continue to fix up some shoulders of the roads. We helped out in Hillsborough and Alma with the Day of Caring. Riverside Albert had a good crew on, didn't need any of our assistance. And then we also helped with the setup at the Kiwanis for the fundraiser for the Lake School Playground. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reed. Any questions from members of council? Sorry, Councilor Jonah?
I looked at the arena for a second. The plant that's in there now, is that the original plant that's been there for 45 years ago?
No. It's been updated some. The fellow we have through Black and Matt, Kevin, he's been great with us. He's been able to locate us a lot of good used equipment in other locations when they were upgrading to newer stuff, and it was similar to what we had at the time. So we've acquired over the years some good used equipment. So it's not new. It's new to us. They've been, so it's everything there is in good used condition. The new slab really does help. Like before this new slab, we probably wouldn't have been able to keep ice into the extended season, but the slab itself has been working wonderfully. But again, like the building itself, and the other thing we got to look at too is the condensation in that building. Again, it's not insulated, so when you have warm temperature outside and you're trying to freeze inside, it's, you kind of create a rainforest in there. So you have two dehumidifiers that are running full bore that are at the end of their life too. So it's not just looking at, if you want to open up in that warmer season, you're going to have to probably put two new dehumidifiers in that arena as well to keep up with the moisture that you're causing.
Okay, Councilor Ellicott?
Yep, just a couple of things for me. DTI, the chip sealing on Forestdale Road. Now that we're into June, have we heard anything from DTI? It might require follow-up, what the,
It's a project for this year for sure. They confirmed that, but I haven't got any information on when exactly it's gonna get done, but I
Okay.
think certainly.
stop signs for the bottom of Forestdale Road.
That I think was replaced this morning.
Was it? Okay, perfect.
I'll double check, but I was.
No,
it should have
that's-
been.
Okay, perfect. It wasn't there yesterday. And as far as Crooked Creek, there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done up there to the washrooms. The group did a fantastic job of getting all the painting done, but there is some hinges that I think needs to replace, in the washrooms. I didn't know what the time frame was for that.
I'm not sure, but I will take a look and get on that.
And we did, I know I think the corner flower bed has been a much topic of discussion in the
Yeah.
community. I'm not sure that I've asked around, they're not sure it needs to be rebuilt. Like there's 9 bricks that appear to be missing,
Yeah.
but
It's just, I can't find those bricks, so maybe we'll just remove a row, lower the row and.
okay. I'll check and see because I think, some of them from the Crooked Creek Convenience did find them in Moncton and they're like $9 a piece, but I'll double check on that. And that was, the other question I had is for later.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
Yeah.
Counselor, Deputy Mayor Arrow.
Yes, I've got a couple there for either for our director and or the CAO. One is for summer road maintenance planning for this year. So I'm thinking of grading of some of our municipal roads that are gravel. I'm thinking about shoulder repairs, some of the culvert repairs that we know have failed. There's, I know for sure, one on Chignecto Drive in Alma, and also paving. Is there a plan? Do we know yet what we're hoping to do for this year? And have we engaged through tendering our paving contractor for the work that we hope to do in our 3 communities?
I just received today what my budget's gonna be. It's been on hold from the Pound Hill project and the Wash It Back on Golf Club for funding, so I wasn't able to acquire a budget for any of that work until today. So now that I have that, I can proceed with where we're gonna go with that, so.
So we had compiled a list and we knew what we wanted to work on, but because of these other projects, we wanted to make sure that there was enough money in the budget to do what the priorities were before we started spending it on other things. So now we're in the process of going out and getting some quotes or tenders, seeing how much work there is and then and going from there. We had to make sure Pound Hill was definitely, we needed to find extra funds for that. And we weren't sure what was happening with golf course, I keep calling it the wrong thing. Golf Club Road, I apologize. So now that we're set on those, we're ready to move forward on the summer project.
Okay, so I think as soon as we know and we can start to manage the expectations of the community, because the communities of Alma, Riverside, and Albert and Hillsborough are historically expected there to be, paving repairs done every summer, and there's budgeted amounts allocated in 2024 again this year for that kind of thing. Grading is also included in that kind of stuff. The sooner that we know what we're planning and we can communicate that to the community, the better. So that's one. The next one is this one sort of seems to be a real nag. It doesn't seem to go away, and I think we need to somehow make it go away. But in Alma, unless I'm not actually in the village in the last few days, it's possible that the famous grass between the sidewalk and the property line and fence of Cleveland Place on Main Street. This is the long story that in past it was claimed by the village of Alma to be village property, and the landowner said, okay, then you take care of it. And no one's taking care of it right now, it seems. And this is kind of unacceptable, I think, to the entire community. So either we need to assume ownership of it and maintain it, or if we're not going to do that, we need to have a conversation with the landowner to come to some mutually acceptable understanding about who is going to maintain it. because leaving it unmaintained is an eyesore for the village. So I've raised this last year. I've raised it many times. I think we need to get beyond this. This is not a difficult problem to solve. And I think we need to do that.
I will reach out to the owner.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Council Land.
Couple things, Scott, if you don't mind, Golf Club Road, just as you started into it, there's a culvert there that is dropping or disappearing or whatever, and it's about that deep. Can we put some patch or coal patch or put that on your list to have patched?
It will be, and like I say, once I get some asphalt in, like coal patch wouldn't stay in an area like that, just because, especially with this heat, it would never just push out.
Okay.
But,
And also back on Golf Club Road, there's some big potholes, Fairview's got some big potholes.
so what we're waiting on right now is normally this time of year, DTI starts our street patching, the contract the village has with them. Problem is that if I go put coal patch in, it'll stay for 2 weeks. They roll into town next week and do their hot asphalt. A week after they're gone, anything that I throw my coal patch in is gonna be beat back out. We're gonna fight potholes again. So that's where we're at with that. I mean, if you guys want, I can go order another lift of coal patch and we can stick it in. It's just, that's where we're at with, you know, it'd be nice every year to know when DTI is coming to do it.
Yeah.
Or do we contract ourselves to do our potholes, hire a truck and go pothole ourselves?
I guess salt is on the list to have them patched with the hot stuff, because it will stay, the cold won't, it rolls up, I understand.
What I would like to see is, I mean, I don't know how the funding works, and it seems to be changed every year. And I know in the past, we used to say, well, why don't we do the action ourselves? And it was always said that, you know, well, it's because DTI, when they take the summer maintenance, it covers more than just potholes, it covers all our culverts and everything like that. But I mean, every year it seems to be, well, now they're saying they don't cover culverts and stuff. So I mean, when do we say, okay, well, where do we make an agreement that we can ourselves hire a truck, go get a load of asphalt when we have a bunch of potholes? Maybe it's one truck every 2 or 3 weeks, we patch some potholes for hot asphalt.
I think we need to discuss that at our budget meeting, doing our own hot patch, because I think it's a lot cheaper. If we're not gonna have DTI look after our culverts and the situation we're sitting in right now with them saying no, I think come budget time, we need to revisit that conversation, because what we're paying them, I think we can probably do our patching a lot cheaper. It's not a big process, you know that.
Oh, and most of it's not to do with
Potholes are potholes, right? So that's just my comment.
coal patch. I mean, coal patch is designed winter.
Yeah.
Okay. You can get probably maybe a month in the winter time, but it freezes, but coal patch, it stays pliable. You take this hot sun, put traffic on it, doesn't stay very.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor Oates.
Did I understand that you crew patched the holes down in 114, where the washout is? Put some patching in there?
We filled in the shoulder of the road.
Okay, I thought I don't know if the mayor mentioned it, but I'm kind of confused about DTI. And we're getting wrong messages from them, okay? They own 33 feet from the center of the road. So why are we patching over the white line?
They only maintain from white line to white line.
So it all boils down to the provincial municipal agreement. It's called the Provincial Municipal Partnership or Highways Partnership, PMHP. It also revolves around the provincial municipal guidelines that they have in place, which when we pointed out that the culvert on Golf Club Road was out and they do our summer maintenance, so they have to repair it. They said, oh, no, that, even though it's in there, that's not what we go by anymore. So now they've pointed, because I asked a question about the shoulder of the road, because at one of our last council meetings, their resident is here, asked about that. So what happened was, our public works employees did the work. I had submitted, the day after the resident pointed that out, I had submitted an email to the district engineer, and it took a week to get a response back. And by that time, the work had already been done. And the response was, if you go to that agreement that they claim is in place for some things, but not for others, that it says in there that we are responsible to provide the material, and it's to be coordinated with DTI because they are the ones responsible to shape the shoulder and the ditch. That's how it needed to be done, but time was of the essence. So our staff, much to our thanks, did the work. But in the future, I would recommend that when work like that is required, that we reach out to DTI. We will make sure that the material is brought there, then it's on them to repair.
One more.
That's how it works.
Okay, one more thing.
Sure.
Why DTI? Yesterday at noon hour, I drove up and, there's a road closed sign at 9:10, okay? So I parked and I walked out. The fellow come on with white hat or blue hat, and, he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just finding out, we've got a council meeting and, I was gonna give her a report on this. He said, what do you want to do? No, I said, well, they said 24th was the date that, you know, road would be open. He said, probably sometime next week we'll get it over, but we've got 2 or 3 weeks more to go. I said, oh, okay. He said, anyways, you shouldn't be here, you haven't got a hard hat on, you haven't got a boot. I said, they're a quarter of a mile up the road where they're working, we're standing here talking, Stella, he's kind of ignorant, you know, and, I was asking and I said, okay. So, if anybody's got their machine on there, go on the 511 and look at what it says. On there, can we get it on?
Well, make your point, Councilor.
Anyways, I went on 511, which is, they always say, check on 511. The road was open, one lane, the 14th. It's closed. We're, like I say, we're all information. We should be able to get proper.
We should be mindful that this is a project that's being managed by DTI. It's not being managed by the municipality. We have a right to ask questions, but our questions should be directed to DTI and not the contractor. The contractor owes nothing.
It wasn't the contractor, it was DTI.
If it was an DTI employee you were speaking with, then I would suggest that if we have any questions, then we direct those questions to the CAO, who can then direct it to the head district engineer for a response. Their point's well taken. If it's a construction zone, we shouldn't be there without the proper safety equipment. And he's pointing out the obvious to me. I don't know that I'd walk into a construction area with a hard hat and I understand your passion about that particular road, Councillor, but it's in their hands right now, and we need to be mindful that if we're seen as kind of stepping on places where we shouldn't be stepping, then we could get ourselves in a little bit of hot water with DTI. We certainly don't want to do that. I know they're working on it, and maybe it's not being worked on as quickly as we want to, but we're we need to be mindful of that.
The only thing is, there's a lot of, on the social media, oh yeah, they're gonna have it a week ago, the road was gonna be over, So I was just trying to get
Some information.
correct.
No, I don't blame you for wanting to get information. Maybe we should be asking it through the proper channels and see if we get a response, and if we don't get the response, then we elevate the concern to someone else.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Jonas.
DTI and the potholes in the village, they have absolutely no date, no month, no nothing at this point. I had a resident reach out just prior to this meeting, wanted to know. Said the roads are working helpful as ever. Yes, it's there. Want to know what DTI was doing.
And the price of coal patch probably isn't a whole lot cheaper than hot asphalt. So.
Something we're gonna take a look at, doing it ourselves, not with these guys. Right, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Russell, did you have a question?
Just maybe a comment, back to the arena. I think I mentioned it before, but we should probably sit down at some point and see what we actually need to, prolong its life, I guess is the way I know that I have had conversations with another village of Brandon, and they just received quite a bit of money for their arena, for new sprinklers and other funds. So suggesting that there is money out there if we can actually get access to it, which would enhance, the future of that arena, which we all know is an asset to everyone. So.
Sure. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I guess I did have one question actually about the Alma water system currently. I noted that there was a message from our CAO to the community a week ago, or less than a week ago, alerting them to a situation where demand was exceeding supply. Where are we at right now? Has that subsided? And did we ever figure out what that was? Or is that another mysterious one of these events?
Usage is back to normal. So there was usage, and the director of operations tracks it obviously over a day and a half. And if he sees that it's not kind of bouncing up really as quickly as we hope, then we put a conservation notice in, and then really within a day or two, we see a difference, and the reservoir is back up where it should be. So.
Mr. Reed, do you have anything you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's on the weekend, so Friday afternoon, water usage goes up and it's just not there, right? So if it stays up till Sunday, then it gets low.
Are we anticipating that with the current arrangement with the Fundy Park supplying the western half of the village, basically from School Street West, and the Alma system supplying the remainder, do we think we're going to have any problems where demand is outstripping supply to the point that the reservoir gets critically low this summer?
Gonna depend on the residents down there and what they're doing with their water.
I
can't answer that.
But yeah, that's a crystal ball question almost. It's that it is a usage thing, right? So, and it's not half and half on the village really, right? So there's still a fair amount that's on the Alma reservoir. So, again, we said when we were putting the temporary water in, that conservation was going to be really important throughout the summer, and it definitely still is. So, as long as we can monitor it and put the conservation notices out and people adhere to them, then I think we should be okay.
Okay, because what I would suggest is that perhaps ourselves or with our partners, Englobe, we at least study in advance as a contingency measure if there's any other option to move the dividing point between the two systems further east, so that the Fundy Park supplies more than they currently are if we needed to go to that. Because clearly the Fundy Park supply is not unlimited, but it has more. They have more supply available to us, I believe. So if we were running into a situation on the Alma supply, if we already knew what we might do as a contingency in advance, we'd be smarter in our work.
There is another valve back at Forest that, would it take, so that would put, School Street and Ocean Drive onto the Fundy Park side.
Okay, well,
So,
you know, that's the kind of thing that we might want to just make sure the valve's not seized or something like that and discuss.
oh, it's
with them.
working, I know that.
Okay. So it seems to me that if we got, you know, if we really did see a situation emerging here on the Alma side that was very problematic, that might be a strategy to employ.
Right.
I believe one of the strategies, Deputy Mayor, would be to ensure that folks know that just because we have a temporary water supply, that it's not have at it. You know,
Oh, yeah. That's right.
obviously, we know that if people conserve, then there should be no problems. When people, obviously, there are indications that there are spikes in the use. And when that happens, you're going to start to run low. Hopefully, you know, with Mr. Reed monitoring the system and our CAO monitoring the system, that if we start to get critically low, we may have to take some additional measures. And the one that you presented is maybe a viable option.
One of the things I have to for that last notice was that if anybody was planning on doing something they thought was going to use a fair amount of water, if they included us in that in the beginning, then we wouldn't be so worried every time we see something. But maybe we could work with them to kind of spread it out over a couple of days or something of that nature. So it's the surprises that make it difficult.
Right.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
I have one question, Mayor. Back to backflows, we discussed it a while ago, but there's always this mysterious water disappearance now. And it just happens over a nighttime or a half a day. Is it not feasible to stick some water meters on and see where this stuff is going?
That would be very costly if we start sticking, or you mean sit meters in the system?
Yes.
That would mean digging up places, and it could be quite costly to do. I think there was some possibility, and that was discussed, the possibility in the phase 2 is to have meters installed. I think it might be a bit premature to start trying to install meters now with what we're going through right now.
Because if you look forward, and we're gonna put these new wells online, what's the guarantee that them wells are gonna produce more water? They're gonna produce more, but how much? So we might not get out of this situation, I think, in time, so I'm trying to say. So if we're spending this money, put these meters on, and then we'll have a better understanding of where things are going.
That,
Because the new wells are gonna produce water, which is more than what they have now.
3 times more. And more storage capacity, which is the important.
Anyway, that's just my thoughts. I think there's an issue there.
All right.
Well,
Well, for now, this will continue to monitor. Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
well,
We'll
I
wrap
was
this
going to
up.
raise this further during the statement and inquiries when we talk about the Alma Water Project update and the Englobe report. But I actually completely agree with Councillor Land on this point. And I believe personally that under the current phase 2A of the Alma Water Project, which is underway right now, that should include the capacity to monitor where the water is going in the distribution system. That should be part of Englobe's work plan for phase 2A, and it should be part of that budget. But whether we talk about it now or later, because I know that we did recently receive this detailed report from Englobe about the Alma Water Project, which we all received. I thought it was actually going to be on the agenda tonight. It's not, so I'll raise it during the statement and inquiries. But one of the things that's absent in that report is any mention of any capacity to monitor the system, the distribution system, to see where the water is actually going. And I think it's essential, and we've learned that the hard way, that we have that capacity, and there's no reason actually to wait. It should be, in my view, one of the first things that on their construction project that they start to consider to do, because there's no reason to wait. There's the money, or the money's almost there. And this is not actually in the construction area where land use permissions are required from landowners. This is within the distribution system.
Okay, we'll note your concerns, Deputy Mayor, and make sure that they're communicated to Envelope Engineering. Thank you. Back to the CEO.
Yeah, so-
Anything else?
Just the last of the report is really kind of those projects, but the bio is just there all the time. Nothing has changed with that at this point. As far as major projects, Kim is still working with Derek on the branding session and the website redesign, which she kind of already updated on. The strategic plan, we just had the presentation. We'll post that onto our website as a draft until such time that council can approve it at the next meeting in August. And then from there, we do have to, as an administration team, have to create some of those targets and some of the key performance metrics that were discussed. Under the Alma Water project, so we're still, they're working on the detailed design right now. So the preliminary design, I believe, was the report that you're referring to, Councillor Arrow. And the detailed design is being worked on, and we are doing a consultation with one of the landowners tomorrow. The financial part of it, we have submitted the short-term lending application and waiting approval for that. And that does have to go to Toronto actually because it's part of the Bank of Montreal. The stormwater proposal is it's just in its infancy really. They did some field work on it and they're creating a report, and we'll probably see more on that in the coming times. The lagoon was the report that was shared on the agenda earlier. Again, it is the last item. There's a couple of small things that they will need to check with the Director of Operations, and then they'll send an update to the province. The Ward 2, the water treatment plant upgrade for Riverside, Albert, the tender closed, and of course we were waiting for a means to fund it because it went in over budget. And we did just approve at the meeting before this one that we are going to transfer some money around, and we will be able to award that contract, and I'll do that tomorrow. I do not have an update on Golf Club Road at this point. Did you want to do that now? Or
We can get your
okay. However, I did have that they are working on the design to go to tender, and then just a little bit of a timeline on there on how much it takes as far as that process goes once it gets out to tender. So 4 weeks to tender, 2 weeks to award it, a 6-week construction period, and then some follow-up after that. Again, for Ward 4, the Hillsborough Water Exploration, we are going to look at the access road construction of it in the fall. So that hasn't changed. And I'll let the mayor update on Braybrook as well in your comments. For Pound Hill, we reached out, at your request, I did reach out to DTI for additional funding, and there is no more funding available for 2024. They did give a couple of options of things. We could amend the scope of work. However, it's only 0.2 kilometers of paving, and it's hard to amend something that small. One of the things that they suggested is that there was two. There was an A and a B. A was just scraping down and repaving. However, we feel that that's not a good option because that would just land us in the same situation in 2 years when whatever we've scraped off and repaved is just going to be off again. So we reached out to Anglo to see if they can split it over 2 years, and that is sort of unlikely, again, because of the because it's such a small amount of 0.2 kilometers of paving. However, our treasurer has reported that a portion of the project can be taken out of the summer maintenance contract, and we've decided then that we can do that, still get some work done within the rest of the with the rest of the money, and we will then proceed with this tender. And it is a budgeted item. There's currently nothing in Ward 5, and in Ward 6, there is a technical review committee that has posted a notice for any comments on the Greenboro subdivision wastewater system, and they have a review deadline at the end of July. So our Director of Operations will take a quick peek at that, but it really is for public, their public notice. And we expect to hear back from them as soon as they're ready to present to council.
Okay, Thank you. Any final questions for our CAO on the administration report?
I just have one, sorry.
Yes,
The
Council.
community center rentals, looks like we do have, I'm just referring to the Riverside Albert Community Center. It gets used a lot, but based on the number, the amount of revenue we're bringing in, there's a lot of problems. I guess, is that for the kids mostly, or is it?
A lot of it is in kind.
Yeah.
So either, there was weekly basketball going on
Yeah.
there for a while, there's pickleball
Yeah.
happening twice a week. There's a home school bunch that uses it every Friday, and then we have the groups, group CCRC, and then groups that are using the downstairs for meeting space. And they're mostly all in condos.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yep.
Not?
Yep.
As Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I had a few, just for the CAO report. I know some of the items that have been on your desk that I'm curious to know updates on. One would be the agreement with the Anglophone East School District that actually was referred to earlier in the meeting during the strategic plan. But what's the status on that negotiation between them and us about the reciprocal, us using their facilities in exchange for doing certain things?
It's really in council's hands, Deputy Mayor. It's a decision that council needs to make in terms of proceeding, whether we're in favor of some of the things that they are asking for in return for some of the offerings that they're prepared to offer. That has to be brought back to a council, to a committee of the whole meeting, to provide direction to the CAO. It's really, there's not much open for interpretation. I think it's on council to make a decision on whether or not to proceed.
Really? Because I didn't know we even had a formal and official template. Like we saw one from Salisbury and we had the meeting with the superintendent, but I thought that there was going to be meetings between the two parties to come up with a proposed agreement. I've never seen any of that.
Well, my understanding was that the template that they sent, even though it referred to the village of Salisbury or the town of Salisbury, was essentially a template that we needed to look at to come back to them with an idea of what we would be prepared to do. And what they are prepared to offer is already quite clear. So we need to decide as a council, are we going to develop this? And Mr. Kirkpatrick had made it quite clear that we're not in a hurry to do this, but I think he left the ball in our court.
Okay, so I guess we'll raise this at a different time, because clearly if it's one of our strategic objectives, we should be, I thought that there was something actually moving on this, but I guess I'm wrong. So I think we as a council should do something on this because it's the youth of our community that would benefit from that. Another one, you're aware, Ms. Warren, that there was a request from a member of the public about garbage collection at the Dennis Beach access point, public access point, and whether the municipal resources could be used for that. Is there any update on where I don't know if did we answer that resident, and or have we come to any conclusion about whether that is viable? I'm hoping that it is viable. The issue, by the way, for council is that the Dennis Beach area is a popular recreation area. The entry point is provincial land. It used to be a provincial park. It's no longer a provincial park, but it's still Crown land. And it's a little bit out of control on busy periods, and garbage is strewn. There's no garbage collection facilities at all. No one is really managing or watching out for it. And some concerned citizens had reached out to us and wondered if they were to get some garbage receptacles there that the users of that access point could use to the benefit of the cleanliness and general appearance of the area, would Fundy Albert, who drives by there very close every week during garbage collection period, could they be used to pick it up?
So I did have initial conversations with our director of operations. That one, I believe, fell through the cracks. I haven't responded back. I do believe there was 3 locations that he was looking at. The other 2, I think, maybe a bit more problematic. The other question is that we won't be collecting garbage after this year, so it goes to a contract, right? So I'll have another discussion with our director of operations and get back to you on that one.
Okay, and perhaps I know if the Plan 360 contract is being vetted, we should include that as one of our items of service that a future contractor would be obligated for, and see how that affects things. The last point
I doubt that will apply, Deputy Mayor, because it's residential trash collection, not anything commercial or recreational. So I would think, much like the recreational facilities that we have in the current communities, that trash doesn't get picked up by, well, it gets picked up by us if it's in our municipality, but commercial wouldn't. And if it's recreational in the community of Hillsborough that's serviced by Faro, I don't think they would collect that. It would be our staff that do that.
Okay, because it won't be much different really than the trash that is picked up in Alma and Riverside, Albert, in our public spaces. Like, I'm not sure exactly how that gets disposed of. I'm pretty sure it's our own people who are disposing of that now, along with the residential trash. In the Plan 360 view of the future, when there would be a one contractor, I'm not sure what will happen to our municipal trash from our public spaces throughout Fundy, Albert, but this won't be much different than that. The last question, because the last question I have is just because I'm curious, because I know it's important actually for the efficient and effective functioning of your office as the CAO. Do you have any update to share with us about the hiring of an assistant clerk?
Not at this time, no, I don't.
And we should have that conversation in a proper forum, Councillor, perhaps in the in-camera session.
Discussion after.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much. So we will move on. There is a bylaw enforcement report that was provided to council by the Maritime Enforcement Services for information purposes. So that's there for just to demonstrate the amount of work that's happening.
I ask a question?
Yes.
So I didn't bring it up in my report, but again, there is no mention of Lower Carmel into wards 6 and 5. And so I did bring it up at the last meeting. So
Did you provide the addresses in question?
I did not, because I don't think that's up to me. I think if they're driving through, they should be able, because all these complaints are not coming from
They are.
everyone else. Okay,
So
so I'm
most of the complaints you're coming in are because they call into the office and then we refer it to
but
them.
he did say that he said that he's actually looking at some of them himself.
Mhm.
So if he is doing that, he's
Mhm.
definitely not looking as he's driving from Riverview into Lower Carmel, because there's multiple sites between here and,
If there are any properties of concern and your constituents are calling you about them, suggest that they reach out to administration to point those out. Now, I would caution to make sure that everybody understands that in order to be classified an unsightly premise, it has to fall within a definition.
Mhm.
And in order to fall within the definition of a dangerous premise, it has to be almost falling in on itself. So just be mindful of that. I believe also, Councilor Ward, when you pointed out at the last meeting, there was, or maybe it was an email to me, you raised the issue of long or unmowed grass, which is a problem in a number of areas. Now, what I became aware of is that in the city of Dieppe, they actually repealed their bylaw to deal with that because it was deemed to be, obviously there was some type of a process that it was deemed to be unconstitutional. So unless it presents an imminent danger or is blocking the view or that type of issue, it's really, we don't have that type of a bylaw. And if it ever came to that, my recommendation would be not to proceed with anything, that there is absolutely no hope of being able to do anything. But anyway, we can still have a conversation. Anything else, Councilor Russell?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5, new business, Fundy Albert Municipal Facility Use Policy. Council's provided a draft of the Fundy Albert Municipal Facility Use Policy. The CAO, if you have any comments, I assume that it was presumably provided to us in draft format for comments, so that if you have any comments, to provide those. I had some right away that just jumped out at me. One was whether or not we were conducting a review in relation to the arena rates. That was one of them. And I don't need an answer right now, whether that's being done. And it's kind of timely given the fact that somebody was here presenting this evening on the use of the arena. And then secondly, our draft policy seems to indicate that the wearing of helmets is not mandatory when not playing hockey. Other municipalities do not seem to allow this. The wearing of helmets is mandatory for all users of arena facilities in most advanced municipalities. I would strongly recommend that we don't encourage anybody to be able to not wear a helmet if they're doing a free skate or a public skate. People should be wearing CSA approved helmets, not bicycle helmets. Now, that's just my observation. I'll leave it for that, and I'll provide my comments to the CAO, and then there can be a decision by this council. Any other comments in relation to the use of recreational facilities policy?
Yeah, I just had a couple of comments. The rates that are in there, I was unsure whether they're the current rates that we're using now, whether they've been increased for all the rentals, the arena, the activity centers. Are they the current rates?
So they've been standardized, it would be the better.
Okay.
So there was rates all over the place between the 3 communities.
Right.
Well, 2 communities. So trying to figure out how we can fairly distribute the rate and what the difference is between some of these places. And so we did not do an increase because we feel that that's something that would be part of our budget review process and not necessarily at this time of year. So we're trying to get just a policy down on paper as this is what it is. The arena is definitely something we want to do an investigation on and have some research behind and, what's it costing us? How much are we making out of it? But the policy itself was just to kind of get some rules and regulations on paper and how we're going to manage all of these facilities.
No, I appreciate that because this is new for us to see the information from all the former municipalities. So it's wonderful. I just didn't know where the rates came from. That's all. The other question I had was, I picked up on the Kiwanis ball field. So the Kiwanis don't own the ball field. We own the ball field.
The Kiwanis does own the ball field, but it was the ball field was provided to them with the understanding that the village would maintain it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor.
That's not quite correct.
And enlighten me.
The ball field does belong to the village. There was, when the Kiwanis obtained the land, there was a deal struck with the council at the time and the Kiwanis, that as long as the Kiwanis left it as a ball field, there would be, the rest of my conversation will have to be in camera. But we do own it. It's on Kiwanis land, but we do own it and we do maintain it.
How do we own a facility if we don't own the land?
It was a deal struck way back when it was handshake.
You say you've got a legal opinion on that, it would be a little dicey. But anyway.
So you can see why somebody outside the community asked the question.
Absolutely.
I think that was it. I appreciate this. I think it's a great summary and it's a step in the right direction for sure.
All right, any other questions? Deputy Mayor?
Yes. I have 2, but the first one's the most important, is that I'm not sure whether the drafters of this policy were aware or are aware that there's actually a current policy in Alma for the rental of the incubator spaces. Are you aware that that policy exists, and A, and if you are, did you or consult it during the creation of this policy?
Yeah,
Incorporated.
it's incorporated in the lease agreements at the end.
Yes.
No, okay, so what it is that the incubator spaces that exist in the area that's below the activity center that were part of a major ACOA grant
Yes.
were meant as exactly as the name sounds to incubate new businesses in the community. But there was a concern expressed by many in the community about the incubator spaces, which essentially are being subsidized by the municipality, that they should not be either in direct competition in the nature of their business with existing businesses, or bringing businesses into the community that would be not in the public interest of the community. Think of a strip joint as an example. So this was a little bit of a free-for-all until such time as the last council of the Village of Alma published and passed a policy on this subject. It's a good policy. I think it's still sound. I think it probably is still applicable. So I would urge you and your staff to look at that policy and to incorporate it as necessary. I think it could be really directly incorporated in here. I don't think that there's other facilities in the community that are of the same nature as those incubator spaces. So it's really about that. That's the first point. The second one is the lease agreements, which are in Appendix 5. I'm sure they're probably modeled on existing lease agreements. I think it's incumbent on us to get a legal review done just to make sure that we're not perpetuating some bad legalese in these agreements with the new municipality. Not sure how you feel on that, Mayor, but I think that would be incumbent on us just to make sure that they're sound for us.
I would suggest, Deputy Mayor, that you send your comments to the CAO in writing so that they're documented and that they can be followed up.
Right, and that leads to one last actually issue that I have, that I mentioned that this policy for the usage or rental of the incubator space existed and exists. But where it existed, because it was not available on the Fundy Albert website, it existed and was available on the Village of Alma website up until very recently. But I understand that the Village of Alma website actually is no longer controlled by Alma, or pardon me, by Fundy Albert. Is that correct?
It is correct, yes. So we had all of the municipality information taken off of it, and we have all of that. And we were going to get rid of the domain name because we did get rid of the Riverside Albert one. However, there was a group of interested people in Alma who wanted to continue to use the Alma site because it was very well designed, and they are going to take it over and use it for the tourism side of Alma.
Okay, and so maybe I'll raise this later, the next item, which will be about the disposition of assets policy. I'll raise that during our statement inquiries, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'll move on now to item number 5B, which is regional fire dispatches. This is an information item. So as part of my role as the chairperson of the Southeast Regional Service Commission Public Safety Committee Chair, I had the opportunity to do some research on the issue of regional fire dispatch, among other things, and I'll provide those during my brief. A council report form was circulated to members of council on this issue. As I understand it, from speaking with the Hillsborough Volunteer Fire Chief, and I didn't speak to any of the other chiefs, so I want to be clear on that. Fundy Albert Fire Departments receive their calls from the Kodiak Public Service Answering Phone, 9117. When someone calls 911 and the call is for a fire response, Kodiak PSA calls the emergency number provided to them to contact one of our fire departments. Currently, 2 volunteers answer these calls. Once the information is provided to the volunteers, it's up to them to contact the appropriate fire department for a response. There's no recording of that conversation. There's nothing. It's a phone call. You have a fire at this location. They take it from there. NB 911 has been urging all fire departments in the province of New Brunswick to onboard with a regional fire dispatch service. This would mean that instead of calling someone at a local fire department to pass along a call, the regional dispatch center, in other words, in this case, Kodiak PSAP, would dispatch the fire department themselves. This is quicker, and information in all communications is recorded, eliminating delays and ensuring continuity of the dispatch process. The use of TMR radios is an important part of this process. At present, each of Fundy Albert's volunteer fire departments have seed TMR radios, both mobile and portable. NB 911 encourages complete migration to the NB TMR situation, because if you're using part TMR, part VHF, the VHF in the older radios, as soon as someone gets the call, if they're using the TMR, they have two-way communication. If they're using a VHF, it's only one way. So the person with the VHF radio cannot communicate back. NB 911 encourages complete migration to NB TMR. The estimated cost of migrating to regional fire dispatch through the Kodiak PSAP, and this is my quick and dirty estimate, would be approximately $24,000 based on the formula that the province has provided. This is based on information available to date. So based on that, I would recommend doing the following. Engaging in a conversation with the fire department personnel to see what they view as an option. Recognizing that the overall liability and responsibility to make that determination rests on council, not the fire department. Contacting the Kodiak PSAP contact person, which is, I believe, Mr. Savoie, to validate the estimated cost of migrating to a regional dispatch service. When the costs are known, then engage with the treasurer to determine if funding is available for the regional dispatch portion of that service. Then there's the actual TMR portion of the costs, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we assigned some funding in the 2024 general operating budget for the purchase of the TMR radios for half of them, with a goal of in 2025 purchasing the second half. I recognize that it's an additional cost, but there is a cost of not doing this, because eventually, and it's in my council report form, NB 911 has said, and they're clear on this, that they will mandate this service at some point. And if we're not ahead of the game and take advantage of the seed radios that we can get now, we're going to have to purchase those out of our operating. So those are the conversations that we need to have. It's an information item, no more than that. So I'm presenting it to council so that you're aware, but I'm just looking to see if anybody has any comments with respect to what I've just said.
I have one
Councillor
comment.
Elderton?
Sorry, yes. I understand that it is council's decision, but I do believe that we need to hear from the experts in the field, which is our fire chiefs and their personnel. I think that's a given. The second thing I'd like to say is I'd like to see us meet with all three fire departments at the same time. To save miscommunication. I didn't understand it that way. I think it's very clear. We did that once last year and it was very well received, and we haven't done it again, unfortunately. But I think it keeps the communication clear and everybody knows where everybody stands.
I think that's what I was suggesting, is we have a conversation with them as part of that.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones?
Yeah, I think this needs to be, we've been beating this around for too long now. We need to make a decision. If we have to pull up the fire departments together with us, it's time to move forward on this. But it seems to be there's a lot of, well, this works for me, but not for them. I like this, and I don't like that. Like you said, somewhere along the line, we're going to have to hammer down. So let's finally get ahead of this and make our own decisions before somebody makes them for us.
Anyone else? Councillor Coates?
Yeah, I agree, and I think we talked earlier or the first of the year, and but I did get some Charles Savoy, who's been So sends the bill anyways to us. Hi, Jim. This is December the 7th, 2023. The cost is based on the previous year's assessment. So for next year, 2024, it will be based on 2023 tax assessment for the municipality. So, I think you and I talked at the time and Lou was really gonna, like, the first quote was, when the 3 fire departments were, was 44.37. Okay. I asked him, is that for 3 years? No, it's for a quarter. Yeah. So, in your statement, you said, Riverview Fire Department and Rescue, they're, well, pretty well down to Stony Creek and Parkway. I don't know. Talked to Robin too last Monday. John was there at the time, and he's not real happy with the 911. They do not have people trained to answer fire calls. He said, example, we send a rescue when we should be sending a truck, you know. And he said, but they don't work, but they're changing. I guess it's like every place right now. It's hard to find people. So, you also said that we could maybe shave some of the cost by the tax base in, we're paying Riverview now, 3,000.
What I was getting at there is the fact that we already pay Riverview Fire for the service.
Yep.
So that cost of the NV 911 dispatch should already be built into theirs. And what I didn't include is the portion of Ward 5 that is included in that. So I just kind of hived off the tax base for Ward 6 out of that, and then calculated it based on the tax base for Wards 1 through 5. And then came up with that formula based on the 0.0046 cents per $100 of assessed value.
I would like to be part of this conversation because I've got, and I asked the chief in Riverview at the time, I said, what about Little Creek? Well, we're going in there a ways. I'm not quite, he wasn't quite sure where they went in. But Ward 5 starts just about a kilometer from the Four Corners. And I think it's 60 or 70 kilometers from there to the fire station in Hillsborough. So you're gonna have a basement if you've got in front of swimming pool in, if you have a fire. So we should get Riverview and involved in it and get who's going to look at it.
And I agree with some of your comments. Obviously, some of the areas in Turtle Creek that are far from here need to ensure that they get a responsive fire service. Now, does that mean it comes from somewhere else? That should be discussed. My issue is that we've been throwing this ball around for a long time and there's been no decision made on it. Like, if we want to do something, we need to make a decision before the decision is made for us. And continuing on with a legacy system that is not being supported technologically is a recipe for disaster. Now, like, I agree, we have to have a conversation with the fire departments, but at the end of the day, if something goes south, it's on our municipality, it's not on the fire. If something happens. So That's why it's up to this municipal government to make a decision. What I will add to that is the fact that there are 156 municipalities growing by 3 out of 165 who have gone with a regional fire dispatch model, whether it's through Kodiak or with someone else, that should be factored into your decision. There are some municipalities, Shediac and I believe Kakapeti, that are currently getting a dispatch service from Valley Communications. They are having problems. They can't respond in French, which you might say, well, it really doesn't matter in Fundy Albert. Well, if you're the French-speaking person whose car is on fire or having a medical emergency, you might want to be able to account for that. So they are having some significant issues to the extent that some of these municipalities that are going with Valley right now, even though it's much cheaper, are starting to rethink their decision. So those are conversations. The reason I brought it up is we should be looking at it, put it on the table, have a conversation, determine what the costs are, and then eventually council's going to have to make a decision. Any other comments? Yes.
Just to quickly, just want to acknowledge that and thank you for acknowledging that Ward 6 has already paid its share through the Ruby Fire Department. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah. Anyone else? Not? But we'll now do the mayor and councillor statements and inquiries. Councillor Arrow, if you would like to go first, please.
Okay, the first
Or
one
Deputy
is
Mayor?
the first one is that the Water and Sewer Bylaw Consolidation Ad Hoc Committee will be having its second meeting tomorrow in the same facility you are all in today at 6 p.m. I will be in attendance remotely, but thankfully Councillor Elderkin will chair on my behalf. And the subject of the second meeting will really be a presentation from Englobe on metering and a meter-based rate structure. So all the pros and cons and costs associated with that. So it should be a very interesting and enlightening presentation from them. Probably the next meeting will be, we haven't decided yet, but probably in the order of a month hence after that one. One thing that's come to my attention based on our last council meeting is I think that we as council need to probably have a better approach or strategy to when there is a proposed amendment to a motion or to a resolution that's already been passed. Because at the last council meeting, we had a situation where in our council package, there actually was in a way, a proposal to change a motion that was related to the disposition of the land. It was to actually, I think, change how the land was to be disposed of, whether it be through an RFP or through a real estate and so on. But in fact, that never really came to the table for debate because no one was prepared to make the motion in the first place. And I think that one of the reasons that happened is there was no background information provided to the council about why the motion was seen to be, or the resolution in that case, was seen to be desirable to amend. So I think in the future, in those kind of situations, the use of the council report form would be highly advantageous for us. So that something that perhaps has merit to move forward through a making of a motion, the seconding of the debate, and then a vote, gets its full airing as opposed to essentially nothing happened. So that's just for all of us. So my only other one is this disposition of assets. We all know that actually our municipality, since it's been formed, has disposed of some assets. We disposed of at least one truck last year, a municipal truck. We've disposed of some land. We, as I sort of alluded to earlier, we've now concluded that we've disposed of an internet domain name for the village of Alma. And it's possible we've been disposing of other assets or items of value, whether it's surplus tools or equipment or who knows what. The first part of my inquiry is a question. Do we have a policy that guides us in the disposition of assets? Does anybody know that?
No, we do
I
not.
would say we do not.
Okay. I didn't think we did. I think we definitely need one. In much the same way as when we spend money, we do now have a policy on how we spend money and who has the authority to spend different, amounts of money. Some of it remains within the confines of the administration, provided that the amounts have been budgeted for, and other amounts, higher amounts, come to the council for approval to proceed. I think we need a very similar kind of thing for the disposition of assets. I know council was involved with the truck. We've certainly been involved with the land. We were not involved with the disposal of the Village of Alma internet domain name. I'm not sure what other things we weren't involved with, but I think, and I look to you, Mayor Richon, about how do you think we should develop this policy? Is this something that we can task to administration to propose a policy, or do we need to have a team of councillors take this on? I'm looking to you for guidance on that.
Well, my particular view is until such time as there is a policy developed, and, sometimes these take time to develop, Deputy Mayor, that these decisions, obviously the disposition of I take the disposition of a domain name a little differently than the disposition of something with some real tangible value. Then that should and has come to council for a decision. So until such time as there is a policy that allows the CAO certain flexibility up to a certain dollar value, then those decisions should come to council for a decision. And I believe, other than the one related to the disposition of the domain name, that has happened. So, but your point's well taken that we should maybe develop that, but I would kind of defer to our CAO to see if that is even in the immediate future for us to be able to achieve that.
So it was something that I did bring up at the last time when we were looking at the disposition of land. I said that there is no policy, and did we want to have a policy? And at the time we were making a decision without one, and I used some best practices instead.
Right.
So it definitely is on the list, but do I put it before the access to information? Do I put it after? It is definitely something that's going to take a little bit of time to put together, and there's a lot of things on our list currently. So I kind of need some direction from council on what you consider to be the priorities and what you'd like to wait for a little bit.
Well, my view would be that any asset of any significant value, and I don't know what that would be, above $1,000 at least, needs to come before, in the absence of a policy that would clearly spell it out, and then you proceed according to the policy until such time as that. And even the truck might have been less than $1,000, but I think it needs to come before council. I think the domain names until such time as someone proves otherwise, I think to think that it had little or no value is wrong or likely incorrect. And so we just need to be careful that the municipality actually does have quite a few assets, and that we need to be careful as we dispose of these, that it's done in a manner that's transparent and fair and open and so on.
We're growing. So thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Jonah.
Well, thanks. Council Ann and I had a meeting yesterday with Mr. Fosso, who has bought the old bank to start a laundromat. There seems to be concerns on both sides here. I think we need this proper to sit down as a council with them. I was involved with Director of Operations and just have a have a conversation, get all these concerns out, so we try to move forward on this. I know you have some conversation with them. But there just seems to be, some questions about, we have concerns, he has concerns, that we have concerns. Council hasn't put in to address any of those concerns. It's not our place, but there needs to be a conversation sooner than later with everybody.
Okay, I do believe this is an administration deal and it needs to be between the director of operations, myself, and the potential owner, the new owner of the bank. And it is one that we've been in conversations with him. So I'm not sure to what degree council needs to get involved in the administration side of that project, but
Not at all.
When, can you say, have you had a face-to-face conversation with him?
we have not. We are still trying to get information from him in order to determine what products they're going to be using. And again, with the director of operations was off last week, so we are looking at it this week as a priority.
Okay.
And just, we were in talk with them quite a while back. And then all of a sudden we asked for a few things. We even went had Englo ask a few little things and he went quiet, no response, no
We
nothing.
said he no longer needed the information.
Yeah, so we thought, okay, he made a done deal. Then all of a sudden he popped back up, now he's going ahead. Well, he didn't supply the information we asked for back then, and he said you no longer needed it. And the key thing I'm concerned about is our lagoon. So when I'm asking what chemicals and detergents are you gonna put out the drain pipe, and he sends me a picture of the washing machine. That's no good. I need a list of chemicals, detergents, and the amount. And then he just sends a picture or a document of something else. I've asked him, plain out, chemicals, detergents, a list of them, and the quantity that he gotta use. And until he can tell me exactly what he's gonna use for a detergent and chemical and the amount he's gonna put out, I don't want it in my lagoon because it's, next thing you know, it's gonna cost somebody a lot of money to do some pre-disinfection at the lagoon if it wipes all our bugs out.
I have a copy of the MSDS sheet. Will you, that,
So my question would be,
That's
should
it.
we expect individuals supplying it to a counselor as opposed to going to the administration?
Yes.
why he decided to do that? Oh, no, actually, I did ask him, I asked him if you have a copy of an MSDS sheet for everything that you've already done. So I do have,
Then on that, does it state what he's using for detergent, chemicals, and the amounts?
not the amounts, but the detergents and chemicals, yes. Yeah. I don't
So,
No, closer, but.
yeah, suffice to say that these are questions that have been asked. They need to get the answers. And as council, as elected council, it's fine to speak with a constituent, but we should not be asking or receiving information. It should be going to administration. And for all the questions that administration or director of operations ask, they should get questions to the answers because they are important to the utilities in our municipality. So just a second. Deputy Mayor, you have a question in relation to Councillor Jonas?
No, I didn't have a question, but I just thought I'd throw out a comment that I think is useful for the group here is that as part of my work as the chair of the water and wastewater consolidation, bylaw consolidation thing, it's interesting for you to all note that the water and sewer bylaws of a community that are the place that you spell out what it is and what you're allowed and not allowed as a ratepayer or a potential ratepayer to put into the system. And even on the consumption side of water, you know, it's the bylaw that provides the powers to say, A, you're using too much water, or you would be, we're not allowing you to hook up, or B, you're putting stuff into the system that is incompatible with, you know, our system, we're not going to allow you to hook up. It's the bylaw that is where that's prescribed. I'm not sure what the Hillsborough bylaw currently says, but we know that as we're moving forward with the Fundy Albert proposed bylaw, we will address this kind of stuff there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jonah, anything else?
Yeah, this one might be a little more simple. Had a couple of residents call me over the weekend We have a very, very large raccoon that's been wandering around the Academy Street area. I don't know if you've seen it here and stuff. This thing is huge. Most raccoons come over nighttime. If this was on Academy Street, anywhere from 1 to 2 p.m., you see it waddling up the street. So there's concerns over the kids and stuff playing around the area with the raccoon being out during the daytime. They are both asking if we can live track this thing and move it on somewhere else.
I can't touch it.
We cannot, but we can certainly give you some information, have them call into the office, and we can provide you with the information of who to call to assist with that.
So it would be up to the residents to do this, if
So
not.
they can call us and we can give them the proper information of where to call. It would be, I'm guessing it would be, oh my goodness.
DNR, I mean, I guess we could contact, I guess the thing would be for somebody to call DNR and just say, hey, look, you know, I mean, I could do that.
I think that resident actually called last week and I gave her all that information, but
Right.
We'll talk after them, so we'll compare notes.
anyway, but I
But
did.
to me, it doesn't seem that should be a resident problem. That should be,
Well, with cats, it is.
I mean,
No, but
it's not a cat.
it's not a cat, but the animal bylaw only addresses problems with dogs. If you have a problem with a cat, it's incumbent on the owner to live track the cat and to bring it to the SPCA.
So what if,
So there are problems. There are situations where it doesn't fall on the municipality to trap a wild animal.
okay, so if this was a coyote instead of a raccoon, would we still tell them the resident, go get a trap and hopefully that's,
We would tell them to call DNR.
that's it.
I wouldn't expect our director, I wouldn't expect our public works department to be trying to go after a coyote or any wild animal.
But it's sort of be up to the municipality to contact the owner.
Not allowed to pick up a squirrel.
I don't understand why would this be put on to a taxpayer to after them to get a hold of somebody to live track this. I understand our community.
We're not, because when during my conversation that I had when I got my warning, we're not even allowed to pick up like dead squirrels. Technically, if it's an animal, whoever has the issue, they need to call DNR and DNR will decide on what's gonna happen. If DNR says we're not doing anything with it, we have to leave it be.
I know sometimes.
But that's what I found out through my last little encounter. So it's, yeah, we don't touch any animal.
I just.
And no, it is, but that whoever the resident is, I mean, yeah, it's a matter of calling DNR and hopefully if they say, yeah, it's wandering around with kids, hoping that they would come down and trap it themselves and take it away.
There's a lot of rules around animals as well. You can only take them a certain distance away from where you trap them, and you can't just go drop them in the middle of, a forest 100 miles away. So
That's why.
and a lot of them end up coming right back because you can't take them far.
Well, you don't think I would be either trapping squirrels and taking them if you can't carry a dead one? I don't think you should have a live one going on the road with it either. Just saying, if they pull you over, I know now.
Yeah.
I know many people have done it for many years, but,
All right.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Elderkin.
I just did a couple of things. United Day of Caring, thank you to a great group of volunteers that painted the lookout deck up at the Crooked Creek. And they also painted the washrooms. Very much appreciated the support from the Shipoti Revitalization Committee, because I understand it was kind of their project, but some of our municipal projects got in on it. So that was very thankful. And I think I don't think we offered any supplies or anything. I think CCRC paid for their lunch and stuff, so they should be acknowledged for that. I did attend the unveiling of the Albert the Dinosaur that is on loan. It's at the Hopewell Cape Museum. If you have an opportunity, you should stop and see it. It's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, so congratulate to them. I hope they have a great summer. I attended the baccalaureate service at the Hillsborough Baptist Church. Last evening, the 2024 prom for Caledonia Regional High School was held. And I'm just bringing them up as a point of interest that we learn how to struggle as a community as a whole. We should use the kids in our community as an example. They left Hillsborough. They stopped in different communities throughout the way. They were welcomed in Alma. They were welcomed in Riverside, Albert, and nobody was worried about Fundy, Albert last night. They were one. They proceeded as one. There was kids from Lower Coverdale that were part of the prom. It was amazing to see, and we could learn from the kids. They're an example, and they probably should be sitting at our table, is what I'd like to say. And once again, thank you to the local fire departments, man. They step up for everything. They escort it. I know Riverside, Albert was contacted because we have some foreign students that are in the village and they want it picked up in the fire truck. So it was a last minute request. Off they went to Shepherdy, met the other part, and away they went. So, you know, we talk about our fire departments and the people in our community, and our fire departments, all of them, they step up all the time. And they do it for volunteering. They're not paid positions, and sometimes I still believe they don't get the credit they deserve. I think the only other thing I had, which I did forget to bring up, Mr. Reed, is the Beaver Dam. Is it still, we're just talking about animals is what made me remind me. It's still there?
It is.
Okay. So it's,
Somebody, I mean, again, you gotta get rid of the beavers, so it's gonna be a dinner thing. You can't touch it.
and that was pretty well it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elderkin. Councillor Russell.
Yeah, just a few things. So I did bring up the bylaw enforcement. I think maybe a meeting would be beneficial between myself and them. If that can be arranged, that would be greatly appreciated. Want to thank the Hillsborough Library. They actually reached out to myself and they're hosting a summer program at the White Birch Play Park this summer, sometime in July. So glad to have them come into our Coverdale and do that program. With regards to the lagoon in Grace Row, there's a lot of residents that actually know more than what we know, which doesn't surprise me, but I think it's important that we are on that radar before you kind of look like, oh, I have no idea what you're referring to. So if we could reach out to Mr. Russell with that ELG and get more promptly update, I believe that there's actually emails going out to residents that we're not on that email list, so we should be part of that information. You did mention Grass Height. We did receive a complaint with regards to that. I don't have to say I disagree. Even though DF has done what they've done, a lot of other municipalities still have it in their bylaw. So I would maybe ask that we look to see what other municipalities are doing as far as what's in their bylaws. You know, especially coming more of a populated subdivision aspect to Lower Coverdale. I mean, I think it's important that everybody keeps their lawn maintenance up to par. So we've been looking to see what that actually is about. Question on Facebook. I noticed that we're now just called Fundy Albert, not Village of Fundy Albert. Is that?
I was the village.
The brand.
Okay, just the branding.
Okay.
It is our legal name as well.
Yes.
Okay, no, I just thought we've always, so when I go to search, I did get the complaint saying I can't find it anymore because the type in village first, it does not show up, so. I guess just quickly, I mean, I know that Councillor Arrow mentioned garbage in Des Beach. I have brought up the issue of garbage at the White Birch Play Park as well, so keep that in mind. We're gonna be picking up garbage elsewhere, that there is other areas within Fundy Albert that would have garbage pickup needed. The Councillor Allen mentioned with regards to the graduates, want to congratulate all grads, especially ones from Riverview High, as well as Caledonia, as they walk across the stage later this week. So all good there. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Coates.
Oh, I said I lost tonight.
Councillor Land.
Looking forward to the pool opening up in Hillsborough. There's been a lot of work done on that. Thank you to Kim for putting that all together, sorry. And I attended a Hillsborough Homecoming Days committee meeting this week, and there was 9 to 10 people in the room. They've got some plans coming, and stay tuned for, they're gonna have something in the end of July, so they're gonna put this in public and put something together, and I think it's a great idea. So that's all I have.
Thank you. So I do have a couple of updates. Before I do, I would reiterate I would reiterate our congratulations to all the graduates, not only the ones from Caledonia Regional High, but any of the other high school students who are graduating from high school. I know some probably go to some of the high schools in the Moncton area, including Riverview High School. So congratulations to them all. I commend them on this significant achievement. And as I mentioned at the baccalaureate service, whether they continue their education or whether they enter the workforce or pursue other dreams, it's important for them to be the best person that they can possibly be, get involved in the community, be a good friend, be a good son or daughter, and just be generally nice to one another. So I congratulate all of them on that significant achievement and wish them a safe grad week. As far as updates are concerned on the Golf Club Road culvert, since my last council update, I have been in contact with Envelope Engineering, who indicate that the design work continues. Challenge will be the design of the fishway because of the difference in the elevation from the inlet to the outlet. The inlet is at one level, the outlet is at a different level, and they can only put so much slope on that culvert. And if there's to be the elimination of the fish ladder, then that has to be done in such a way that the stream can actually run through it. They would intend on putting some fish gravel within the culvert. Anyway, long story made short, they're working on that design. The estimate is that the design work will be completed and the tender will be out for bids by late July, early August. That's the update on the Golf Club Road culvert. Update on the Graybrook at Route 114. As all the members of council know, I had sent a letter to both the ministers of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure and also the Public Safety Minister. A response was received from Minister Ames's office, thanking me for my correspondence, indicating that engineering work is about 60% complete, and confirming that if a failure does occur, traffic will be rerouted along Route 910 and across Caledonia Mountain. Minister Ames concluded in his response by inviting me to request a meeting to further discuss any concerns if I have any, and I'm taking them up. I have since requested an in-person meeting with the minister and will be traveling to Fredericton in July, on July 11th. Also, the Times and Transcript also published an article in this morning's newspaper where I was quoted as being concerned by the lack of progress on this project and possible public safety considerations and concerns. That's it for the update on Graybrook at Route 114. We also heard today that some repairs were done to the shoulder, but I'm still not satisfied with it because some of the road surface on the highway is still potholes and some slabs of concrete that are actually gone. So that needs to be pursued. As far as an EMO update, a meeting of the Southeast Regional Service Commission Public Safety Committee was held on June 14th. There were 3 topics of discussion, including the EMO regional collaboration, policing services, and regional fire dispatch and TMR radios. Melissa Peugeot, the regional EMO coordinator for Region 7, confirmed that the goal of the regional collaboration initiative is for municipalities to use the template when they get it developed that is being developed for that purpose, to use that template, create their own individual municipal emergency plans, and to insert their risk hazard assessments and appendices. In addition, municipalities will be given the option to enter into a mutual aid agreement that is being developed for access to assets and key personnel with certain skills. Ms. Peugeot is asking any municipalities who have not already done so, and we fall within that category, to indicate their willingness to take part in the regional collaboration initiative. My suggestion would be for our municipality to indicate that we are willing to participate in that process. Otherwise, we need to develop our own EMO plan, much like we have been doing, and the regional EMO coordinator will continue to work with us to make sure that we meet our legislative requirements, and also that we get some help where required. The benefit of a mutual aid agreement is that if there's a municipality that has any assets that we could pull in when needed, we could do that at no cost. recognizing that we're responsible for those assets while we have them. And we could get some additional people to help out in a crisis situation to work within our emergency center. So that's it on the EMO. UMNB advocacy. A webinar was held yesterday following the Advocacy Days workshop that was attended, that was held in Fredericton on March 20th and 21st. The UMNB has developed 3 documents, including an advocacy guide, a dialogue for action, and an election toolkit. I believe I may have shared those with you. If not, please point that out to me and I will share them with you. The purpose of the session was to ask municipalities to request meetings with representatives of all political parties leading up to the election to obtain their commitment in relation to really 4 points. One is creating a stronger municipal provincial partnership, because right now the partnership, the relationship that exists between the provincial government and municipal governments is more kind of a paternal relationship, and it should be on an equal footing. Secondly, to finish the work of local governance reform by building a fiscal framework to achieve more vibrant and sustainable communities. Really what they're talking about there is us being able to tap into certain revenues to be able to fund some of our operations. Right now, the only way that we pay for our operations is through property taxation, and there is a widespread understanding that we represent about 60% of the municipal infrastructure in the province, and we don't have any way of funding that other than through property taxation, which is unfair. Thirdly is developing an urban housing strategy to address, among other things, homelessness. This is really about an urban housing strategy. There's also one that would focus on a housing strategy within our municipality. And lastly is to conduct a comprehensive policing review. There's a pretty widespread recognition that the current model of policing is not meeting our needs, and there is a need to have a review of that, which UMNB is prepared to undertake. The idea being the documents provided by UMNB are aimed at sending a unified message to all candidates of all political parties and asking them to pronounce themselves on these key areas. The questions that were asked at the end of it was, should we be allowed to advocate for some of our priorities at the same time? And the answer we got was, you can advocate for them, but don't do it in the context of this particular advocacy campaign. The important thing is to focus attention on the local governments and some of what they want to achieve, so that the next provincial government, when they're elected, won't be able to say, well, we didn't hear that. We're all sending the same message to all the political parties. So they're asking us to reach out to the political parties, asking them to come to our council meeting, present them with these 4 priorities and say, where do you stand on this? So that the public will make an informed decision come election time. It's not about saying, we prefer this party over that party. We need to know where they stand on these key areas. So that was part of the presentation. So when I asked, when can we start inviting these people? Like, is there a time frame within which we should start to invite these political parties? They said you should start right away. Not wait until the writs drop, because then they'll be in 100% campaign. So those were the areas that my update concentrated on. Any questions? I know I touched on a lot of information, but.
I have one.
Yep.
Just when you go on July 11th, you're meeting President, you might want to add both the Gray Brook project, that they spent some considerable money on the parking lot next door rather than the resurfacing of Route 114. And that's not sitting well with residents.
I read that concern. I think the day after that it was done. Now, and I also recognize that there are other priorities for DTI. I want to make sure that we're singularly focused on that area. But to bring that out to say, well, you seem not to want to repair this, yet you did this other work here. Had that been fixed to start with, we wouldn't have that problem. Secondly, is the repair that we needed to do to the shoulder of the road, that was at our cost. Had that been fixed back in 2019, we wouldn't have spent a cent. So that's money that we're spending now that we shouldn't be spending. So there are a number of things that I wanted to do, and I believe I sent a message out to all of council saying what I plan to do to arm myself for that meeting with the minister. And I plan to go there, not to criticize, but to essentially make my point. And to make a point that, oh, well, you can take the Route 910 across through to Caledonia Mountain to get across. Well, that's to ignore the impacts and consequences of what happens if that occurs. Is there a likelihood that that won't collapse down here? Yeah, but are we willing to roll that dice? And I'd say with a hurricane season that they're projecting for this year, all we need is a 200 millimeter rain event, which is entirely possible. That road might not be there the next day. That's my point. So I plan to drive all the way around, come armed with all the information, and just make a point that we've been waiting since 2019, and we want to know, is there any guarantee that that's going to get done next year? Because obviously it's not going to happen this year. And then secondly is that we still have some unresolved property acquisition issues. 7 years later is not acceptable. That's not an acceptable answer. Anyway, great.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yes, Council.
I know your purpose of the meeting on July 11th is specifically for that part, but there are other roads in Fundy Albert
Right.
that rain is going to affect a lot more than Route 114. Drive through Albert Mines, it's bad.
I know.
There's places in Homo Cape, so I understand the importance of that one piece of land, but I hope you'll take the time, once you have an ear, is to advocate for all of Fundy Albert's roads, not just that one piece.
I will always advocate for all of Fundy Albert. But when I have the minister's ear on a project that has public safety implications as it relates to the ability of police, fire, and ambulance to respond, that's where I'm getting most of the pressure. That's where I'm going to concentrate the message. My concern is if I start talking about the Albert Mines Road, the Nine Area Road, all the subdivisions in Lower Coverdale, then it's going to water that message down. I want that message to be crystal clear. I recognize that, but just doing that doesn't mean that we don't continue advocating for all the roads in Fundy Albert.
Right. I think my point is, I think our pressure could change depending on where the rain falls and where the water flows.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, this part may not be that important because some other places shut down. So I think it's important to know we have needs in all of Fundy Albert.
And I could make a kind of a blanket statement saying that we have some roads that are in desperate need of investment. But my main point is down here, and it's not because it's in Hills Road. It's because it is the thoroughfare for not only for economic development, tourism, business, people traveling back and forth to Moncton, because for people who live here, their only route would have to be to go back to Riverside, Albert, and then back across Caledonia Mountain. There is no other way unless the detour is fixed down here. But even if it is fixed down there, the road through the municipality is not meant to take that type of traffic. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Reed. It's a chip seal road, and I don't think it would stand all that tourism traffic.
Motorhomes and SUVs up over Taylor Lane is not ideal.
And a similar issue occurred in Salisbury, where they said, oh, well, we'll just detour them around through the municipality. Well, the municipal government took them to task on that and said, are you guys going to be prepared to fix our road when this is done? Because you're tearing it apart now. So anyway, I know it's maybe not the response that some councillors want to hear, but it's basically like it's a bit of a strategy. And strategy is to make sure that they're crystal clear on what the objective is, and that's to get that done. Whether it's this year, which is not realistic, but next year. So my question will be, what is the commitment? What is the guarantee that this will be fixed next year? Recognizing that if the current government does not form the next government, that could all change. And that should not be acceptable to any of us. One of the advocacy things that we can do with political leaders, separate from what UMNB are asking us to do, is pronounce yourself on how big of a priority this is. Okay. So that is my,
I think you could also leave your meeting with a handout with all the other issues that arise in All of Sunday Albert. So I know that you're going based on Route 114, but at the end of the meeting, you can hand them the site.
Sure.
You know, in due time, please respond to these issues as well.
yeah, no, that's fair. Okay. Unless there's anything else, we do have a closed session matter to discuss. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor.
No, I just had one last good news story, call it, to finish off is we forgot to sort of remind people that there are two Canada Day events in the municipality. Hillsborough has events going on, and certainly Alma does. Those are well advertised, I believe, through our webpage and Facebook page. I think there's full calendar events. And so thanks to all the people that are involved throughout the community getting that. I'll personally be missing it, but I wish great success for all of that for everybody.
Great, thank you very much. But we do have a closed session matter, as I said, so I'll move into closed session. So moved by Councillor Coates, seconded by Councillor John. Is there public statements? Oh, sorry. I will backtrack. Item number 7, public comments and statements. Since we did move to have that acknowledged, there's now an opportunity for members in attendance to make public comments and statements. Anyone wish to say something?
One comment, somebody with a sense of humor went back on Carlos Street where there's 3
Saw it.
and they put soil in there, and they planted flowers. And birds are stopping and taking pictures of the flowers in those potholes.
We saw that. The fact that there was soil put in the potholes is not helpful. However, it's soil too.
Yeah, you know,
However, it's,
but here's a question though.
yes,
I have some potholes in my private driveway. I just fill them with gravel and put those potholes not just be filled with some gravel until such time that you want to do the other thing. Because I know you get those 2 in Carter Street, they can take a tire, they can take a tire rod, they can take any, especially on a dark night. That's all. My comment.
thank you very much. So, as I said, we have Councillor Coates who moved to move into closed session. Councillor Jones seconded. All in favor of the motion, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and have a great evening.